Welcome to News, Games, and More, IGN's daily live news show. I'm Damon Hatfield, and I will be your guide for Monday, November 16th. And today I'm joined by Sydney Goodman and friend.
Hello, this is Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the show. Destin Legary.
Bam! Hi, everybody.
And Jonathan Dornbush.
Hello there.
Hello to one and all. I hope everybody had a good weekend. It was the first weekend that we got to spend a lot of quality time with our shiny new next-gen consoles, those of us that were able to get our pre-orders in. So let's take stock of what we all have here. I have both. I have PS5 and Xbox Series X. Jonathan, you have both?
I have both. Yes. Yeah, I got them both on their launch days.
Destin?
Yep, they're right there.
Yep.
This is the Xbox and the PlayStation's hiding.
Which is a feat, considering how big it is. Yeah. And then, Sydney, what's your situation?
I have both, yeah. I'm going to be honest, though, I haven't plugged in my PlayStation yet.
Wow.
Mostly because I don't know, I was vibing with Cold War on Xbox, and I don't want to deal with my cable situation. So that's where I'm at.
Oh, just the cables coming out of the boxes, you mean? Yeah. No, it's a real thing. The struggle is real. Okay, well, first, maybe Sydney, why don't you sort of tell us, how are you finding your Xbox Series X then?
Okay, so I am so grateful that I was able to get a pre-order. There are parts of the console that feel very next gen. However, when I first booted it up, Alex, my husband, was in the room with me, and he looked at it and was like, "Wait, why aren't you playing your new console?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is the new console, Alex." But the 3D audio, maybe that's not actually what it's called on Xbox, but the audio upgrades that they have made are significant. And I'm using the same audio setup that I was on the Xbox One. And it's really impressive. It wasn't something that was really on my radar, and I'm very, very impressed with how that's been used in Call of Duty specifically.
Can you give some examples?
It just sounds like very Dolby surround sound. I don't know if they actually are sorry. I just don't have the heart to kick her off my desk.
Fine.
I don't know if they actually are using Dolby Atmos within the console, but it sounds very like if you're sitting at home or in a movie theater and you have a surround sound experience. It's like the fact that bullets are coming from this way, or if somebody's running across your screen, it is so clear that the sound is moving from here to here. It's super cool and just very immersive. So I've been very impressed by that.
Cool. Destin, I know you were doing a lot of you're using the new consoles for work, doing a lot of sort of graphics showcases, but how have you been using them in your spare time? If you've had any?
I haven't been. During the weekend, I actually played a lot of PC Destiny 2. The new expansion just came out, so I'm trying to get ready for the raid, which is next weekend. And I did a ton of grinding, and I got to the power level I need to, and now I can just sort of live a normal life again. Yeah, I get kind of obsessed with Destiny. Every time there's a new major expansion, it's really exciting because you get to grind and power up to be the new power cap, and you get introduced to new weapons, new story narrative stuff. And I do a Destiny show, so I like doing that stuff.
But then, so in the time you spent with the next gen consoles, do you have a preference yet?
So, for work stuff specifically, I really like that the Xbox Series X is incredibly clear with your options and the option settings. The PlayStation buries a few things, like how to make 2-channel audio. I know, Dorno, you ran into that issue, and Brendan Graber actually was able to find out how to eliminate that problem. On Xbox, it's all just right there. Your audio settings are really easy to set. Your video settings are really easy to set. No issues out of the box. We kind of know the UI and how to handle it. On the PlayStation, it was a little more obscure, just a little more hidden, and not too problematic once we know how to fix it all, but for just ease of use, Xbox.
Jonathan, what was this audio issue that Destin was referring to?
Oh, this was specifically for capture I was doing for a review. Basically, the way the audio was outputting it caused the capture I was doing to either just not show up at all or to have a lot of hitching in it. And it was a setting we needed to change that was nested within, a couple menus. I think the PS5 UI, by the nature of being different, has had a lot of more adjusting that we've all had to be doing. Like, it does have a decent option set, and there are some really good like hidden features in there, but a lot of it is hidden or buried in there, and so you do have to kind of spend a little more time digging around than obviously we're used to, because we've been, at least on the PlayStation side, using the PS4 for 7 years. But
they just move
yeah.
stuff a little bit,
Yeah.
making it harder. Like to force 2-channel audio, for example, if you're an audio person, and that's the issue that we ran into. Spider-Man was forcing like 5.1 or 7.1, which results in cutscenes where people are talking, but you can't hear them. So like in the game, you have to set it to 2.1, and then you have to force the console to output 2.1. It's sort of an interesting issue we run into every once in a while with our capture that just, I have to work with the team to make sure that we address and help him out when Dorno like hits a problem like that. And he solved it largely himself, but yeah,
This
it's
kind
good
of
to know
sounds,
now.
This kind of sounds like an issue I'm having on my PlayStation 5. So you might be able to troubleshoot this with me right now. So for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I started playing on my PS4. So I set up my PS5, I downloaded AC Valhalla and transferred my save over from my PS4.
Okay.
When I started playing on PS5, it picked up right where I left off, but there was weird audio issues, like no dialogue in cutscenes, and there was no ambient noise like Eivor's footsteps when she was running around the countryside. Does that sound like the same problem?
Yep, it does. You're probably outputting like 7.1 and you only have a 5.1 setup. So it's just decided to allocate those audio channels to different channels that maybe your current home setup doesn't have. I always do 2.1 because we capture everything in 2.1, and I wear headphones a lot for capture, so I don't mind it so much.
This is so over my head.
It's just like you have 2.1, 5.1, and 7.1 for most audio outputs, right? And all of our capture has to be in 2 channels, which means left and right, right? So 2.1. I don't know what the 0.1 is, if I'm being honest, but it all goes to one output. So yeah, I have a sub.
I mean, I do have a sub. Okay, so I can just go into my settings. This is very valuable to me. My settings, like audio, and then switch from 7.1 to either 5.1 or 2.1.
Yeah, set it to whatever you want. I'll send you the specific path once we're over with the show.
Man, I learned something on today's show. That's super helpful.
See? Hopefully we help chat.
Is this part of our wikis? We should have like a wiki of all of these random things that you need to change.
I was going to plug that. Thank you for the setup, Sid. Yeah, so we have Miranda's been just like busting her butt, making sure that all of our next gen wikis are incredibly helpful for you guys. And we're constantly getting questions. So every time in chat, you guys have questions, go to ign.com/wikis, look up your console of choice, and be sure to look for the specific issue that you're having. I'm willing to bet Miranda and team has you covered.
Yeah, they've been doing a really good job with that. Okay, but Jonathan, you're obviously a big PlayStation guy. How has your time with Xbox Series X been?
I haven't plugged mine in. I'm the opposite of Sydney.
Is that true?
Yeah, wow. It's just sitting. It's sitting by my TV. I unboxed it because it looks cool. I wanted to see what the box came in. McCaffrey had made a big deal about the packaging of it, so I wanted to see everything. But I unpacked it and I haven't plugged it in again because I don't want to deal with cable wire management. And there's just so much on PlayStation I want to play right now. Whereas Game Pass, I still have an Xbox One set up in my bedroom. So if I wanted to play Game Pass game really badly right now, I could go do that. But yeah, I just haven't had a need to turn it on just yet.
Yeah. Of course, it's well known that Xbox is lacking sort of any big launch exclusives. Okay, well, you did just put up your review of Spider-Man Remastered. We don't need to dive into that fully just yet, but I imagine you're playing that recently on your PS5. Have you been playing anything else?
Yeah, over the weekend I spent a lot of time with Sackboy, which I've been waiting to get into and finally played. I think I'm in the 3rd of the 5 worlds that you can play through. I think there's also a 6th world in there hidden, but 3 of the 5 main worlds I'm through right now. And then I also started Demon Souls, which I have never played Soulsborns really at all before. So this is an entirely new and wonderfully frustrating but fun experience for me, and very different from Sackboy. So that's kind of how I spent most of my weekend.
Yeah, I'm not much of a Souls-like fan either, but I do want to check out Demon Souls. I want to give it a shot. If for nothing else, I think it looks really, very pretty game.
It's beautiful, yeah.
I should be able to at least enjoy that aspect of it. And then do you have sort of I guess you're just sort of like standing by for something worth setting up your Xbox for?
Yeah, I think I'll probably set it up over Christmas break, probably at this point. Wow. I mean, because nothing else really new is coming out in the next month or so. Like, I'll set it up then after I've gotten through the PS5 launch lineup, because I do want to play that stuff to be able to talk about it on Beyond and, you know, other projects that I'm working on. So that's part of the reason I haven't set it up. But it is one of those things where I'm not in the middle of anything on Xbox, so there's nothing pressing for me to get to right now on there.
Got it. So you plan to play big third-party games like Cyberpunk on PS5 still?
Yeah, I have Assassin's Creed Valhalla on my PS5. I'll play it there. I'll probably play Cyberpunk, though. Since the next gen versions of Cyberpunk aren't coming out until next year, if I can play it on PC, I'll probably actually try it there first.
Sure.
Because that's basically just going to be running an up-resed version of the PS4 version, which doesn't sound great to me. But yeah, for the most part, I play multi-platform games, on PS5, partially because I care about trophies, but also partially that's just where I've usually played games with friends if I do. So it's just easier for me to keep playing there.
Real quick question about Sackboy. Have you tried out any of the sort of like the activities, the system level activities that it sets for you?
Yeah, I've used activities a bit on that. I actually dipped into them in Demon Souls as well, and I know that was like a big question. I could talk to that as well. But yeah, I've used it. It's really simple. I think like within Sackboy, because instead of running around the world level, because to get from one level to the next, you have to run around the world map. You can just click an activity card and jump right into a level. The loads either way are super quick. So it's nice to have that ease of use there, especially if I know that like, 3 levels ago, I forgot to collect the 5 main like orbs that you need to get. So I'll go back to that level right now. But you can also basically bump out to the PS5 dashboard, go below like the play button on a specific page for a game, and there are always activity cards there. And that's where I find the activity cards really useful, is to be able to kind of jump into a game that I'm not playing and just jump directly into like a Spider-Man mission that I haven't started yet.
Yeah, I still need to check that out.
I've been waiting because I'm going to be playing that with my wife actually for an IGN project. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really excited to see her reaction to Sackboy. She's not like into gaming, but I think she's going to really, really love that game.
It is great in co-op. I've been really enjoying it as a single player game. I've played about 2/3 so far single player, 1/3 co-op with my girlfriend, and it is so much fun in co-op. Like there's a lot of fun, silly ways your characters can interact with one another, like getting different costumes and mixing and matching those is really fun. There's a lot of cute ways to make it like an enjoyable co-op experience.
Awesome.
And then Sydney, do you think you're the mirror of Jonathan? You think you'll be waiting until Christmas break to set up your PS5?
I don't know. I mean, I want to be honest with myself. Like maybe I just don't have very much motivation to right now, because I mean, the only reason I would set it up would be to play Ghost of Tsushima or to finish it. But then to do that, I'm going to have to transfer stuff from my PS4 to my PS5. And that just sounds like a lot of work. So I don't know. We'll see how lazy or not lazy I am. I think that once I get, it depends on if by the time I get bored of Cold War or like I'm ready for kind of a change of pace, if Cyberpunk is out, then I'm planning on playing Cyberpunk either on my PC or on my Xbox. So then I won't set it up. But if I have a lull in between to finish up Ghost of Tsushima, then I'll set it up. We'll see. I don't know. Cables, man. They just like, they're a lot of work.
It's a real problem. But you're enjoying Cold War?
Yeah, I am actually. I was so skeptical of it. And it's a totally different game than Modern Warfare. And I completely understand people who are just like, I'm not going to play that. Because it is so different, and Modern Warfare made so many changes to kind of the franchise formula that I think were really well received by the community, and myself included. I really liked like the heaviness and the gun feel, and Cold War is so fast. But after I would say like 6 hours with it, I got used to it, and I'm enjoying it. It's also a nice place that it's like my brother and my dad play and my cousins, and so it's kind of like a family hangout thing, which is nice.
Yeah, that is nice. Okay, Jonathan, your review of Spider-Man Remastered went up today, and you reviewed the original Spider-Man game. I guess it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, right? Yeah, September 2018.
You gave the Remastered a 9, which I believe is a little bit higher than the original. Is that right?
Yeah, the original I gave an 8.7. Obviously, we have different review rubrics back then than compared to now. But yeah, I went with a 9, partially because my thing about the original game, I think it's great. I think it is easily one of the best superhero games ever made. especially in comparison now to Miles. The open world stuff feels a bit of a, not generation behind, but it feels a bit more simplistic in terms of like the side mission stuff. Swinging obviously around the city is beautiful. The city itself is gorgeous, but that's sort of where my hangups came with the original review. All that stuff still applies now, but the work that went into the remaster is really impressive from Insomniac, and it is like they went in and relit the entire game, so interiors look way different, and the lighting is way more naturalistic compared to the way, you know, like sunlight is coming through windows, the lighting fixtures and the way they interact with the environment. Facial animation has gotten a huge update across the board, so everyone's face moves a bit more realistically, and some of the really impressive stuff they did with Miles' facial animation and just like character detail has been largely brought over here. So characters look way better, and that adds a bit more realism where some of the uncanny valleyness of the first game disappears now for me. And then also it's just really well bundled together. It's the 3 DLC episodes that I think work way better when you play them together versus like a month apart when they first came out. It's got all the free DLC suits that came out post-launch, all the like quality of life stuff they did, and they also made new tweaks to the photo mode so that it's up to par with the Miles Morales photo mode, which is really great because there's some new features in there that really matter. And they also really enhanced the accessibility features list so that it is more close to what Miles has compared to the first game. So overall, I just thought like the package itself, the base game is still the base game, and my criticisms of it still stand. But as a remastered package, I think it does raise the bar a bit for what the original game was delivering.
It's funny that you mentioned the facial animations, because the comments on your review are all about Peter Parker's face.
Which isn't surprising, you know, when they revealed the face change a month or two ago. I don't remember how time works, but when they revealed that, that was easily the biggest talking point about this thing. And it's funny, like, weird controversies follow this game quite a bit. Obviously, when the first game was coming out, Puddlegate was a huge thing where people were like, they changed the puddles from the E3 demo. The game's going to be awful. And then they didn't, and also the puddles didn't matter. But now the puddles have ray tracing, so they're even better in the remaster. But yeah, you know, I think it's a little weird at first because you are used to, for a lot of people, this was, you know, one of the most played PS4 exclusives, the best-selling superhero game in North America. Like, obviously, a lot of people loved the first game, and if you spent 20, 30, 40 hours with that Peter Parker, it's weird to suddenly be told, he doesn't look like that anymore. He looks like this guy. And it's a change that you have to deal with. And so it's weird, but I like the new face better. I think the new face moves more naturally. Like, granted, it does have the benefits of all this new animation, but I always thought the first Peter's face looked pretty plasticky and was where the most uncanny valleyness happened for me. Maybe him and Aunt May, but I never really loved the first face. I just grew used to it. And so I like this face more. I think it gets across. There's like this very great youthful exuberance to Yuri Lowenthal's performance as Peter that I think comes across more in this face than it did the other one. The other one always kind of looked to me like a video game face of a guy who was somewhere between the age of 20 and 40. This feels like a guy in his young 20s. Yep. But I get why people are upset. Like, you're used to something, and then suddenly it changes for such a beloved game. But at the end of the day, he's not a real Peter Parker. It's not like they changed Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire or Tom Holland's face in one of the movies, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's an unusual situation.
It is, yeah, for sure.
And then the only way to get remastered is to buy Miles Morales. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's a weird situation right now, and I genuinely don't know why it's this case, but the only way to get Spider-Man Remastered is to either buy the Ultimate Edition of Miles Morales for PS5, or if you bought Miles Morales, you can buy, I think, an upgrade to the Ultimate Edition, which essentially is just, you know, buying you the Spider-Man Remastered, but you cannot buy Remastered without buying Miles as of right now, basically.
Got it. I could see it being a PS Plus game somewhere down the line.
Yeah, it feels like easy money that they'll probably be able to make down the line, but I think it's an incentive to get people to buy the Ultimate Edition. So I get it.
Sydney, not a Spider-Man fan?
I actually love Spider-Man. I really like Spider-Man. I'm not a fan of spending money right now. So
very fair.
That's kind of where I'm at. And I know that there were talks about people like being able to get stuff through work. But I didn't sign up, I guess. I don't know. I was too slow. So I'll play it eventually because I actually am, again, I'm a really big Spider-Man fan, or I'm colloquially, I love Spider-Man, but I caveat that because I feel like there's people, it's kind of like Star Wars, how like I love Star Wars, but like I don't have any Star Wars tattoos and like I can't really talk shop with like the extended universe. So it's hard to say like I'm a huge fan because like in the scheme of the fandom, like where do I land? Does it really matter? No. But anyways, I really like Spider-Man. I will play it eventually. Just haven't. It actually will probably be the first thing that I play on PS5.
Destin, how about you? Do you plan on playing either or Miles Morales or Spider-Man Remastered?
I played both actually. I did the comparison feature for Miles Morales, and I did the Spider-Man Remastered little graphics comparison that we're using in the graphics today. Those games are phenomenal. Like it's really, really cool. They're showing a lot of what you can do with the tech of both games. The fact that they can run in 60 basically flawlessly, or fidelity with ray tracing. It really presents an interesting choice for the player. Like, do you want near 4K at 60 frames but no ray tracing, or do you want ray tracing locked at 30? It's really tough. And I played a bit of Miles Morales. I really, really like the story of that game. It's so charming. It just it hooks you right away, like right in the early intro.
And so what did you find with your comparison? Like, does the PS5 version of Miles Morales look better than the PS4 version?
Yeah.
Or run better?
Yeah, but what they did is they actually optimized so that the game runs the best it possibly can on the PS4 standard, PS4 Pro, or PS5. The PS5 just introduces ray tracing. It seems to have like a different color palette. There's different lighting effects that they're able to use. They have new a spline hair thing so that like the fur on his jacket at the beginning of Miles Morales moves a little bit more realistically, like it'll blow in the wind, and you'll just notice subtle changes with the hair. They did a lot behind the scenes with the technology of Miles Morales, and they also did that in Spider-Man Remastered, which I spent a little bit less time with, but it's all there. You can see it all. It's a really, really good game.
Yeah,
Both.
I'm excited. I'm excited to play both of those. I actually never finished the original Spider-Man. And I know you'll be able next week. Is it right, Jonathan, that they're gonna push an update that allow you to transfer your PS4 save?
They said end of the month around Thanksgiving, so yeah, probably next week.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Thanksgiving.
next Friday's the end of the month.
You got till the Monday after. I've seen companies push it.
That's true. But I think it's been a while since I played it and I never finished it, so I might as well just start over again on that one. Here's a question: do you think I need to play if I plan on playing both anyway? Should I play Remastered first before Miles Morales?
I think so, and especially if you just want to mainline Spider-Man 1. Tom Marks actually just did this. He beat Spider-Man 1 over the weekend before jumping into Miles. The main story you can beat in under 12 hours pretty easily, I would say. Probably shorter if you really mainline it. So I think it's worth doing. It does give you, I think, important context for Miles, and will just make... You could play Miles on its own and you'd still get a fantastic Miles Morales story, but you'll have more depth to some of the character relationships and story beats. And then also just it is a game that is set in a continued universe, and I think it does some fun stuff with that.
Gotcha. Cool, man. There's too much. There's way too much to play right now because I want to play Demon's Souls 2 and still playing Valhalla. Man, it's too much. Let's switch over to some Xbox news, though. Of course, one of the biggest news announcements of the year was when Microsoft bought Bethesda. And the big question since then is like, what's going to happen to future Bethesda games? Are PlayStation players ever going to get to play Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield? We still don't really know, but Microsoft does continue to try and answer questions about that in the most media-trained way that they can. Today's quotes come from Xbox CFO Tim Stewart, who said, "What we'll do in the long run is we don't have intentions of just pulling all of Bethesda content out of Sony or Nintendo or otherwise. But what we want is we want that content in the long run to be either first or better or best, or pick your differentiated experience on our platforms. We will want Bethesda content to show up the best as on our platforms." Later on, he said, "If you think about something like Game Pass, if it shows up best in Game Pass, that's what we want to see. And we want to drive our Game Pass subscriber base through that Bethesda pipeline." So I don't know, Jonathan, does that answer any questions for you? Do you feel better about these games coming to PS5?
It doesn't necessarily. It makes me think that we'll probably see more than some people have been considering. My stance on this has always been that they're going to prioritize Xbox, and they will, whether that's limited time exclusive on some games, complete exclusive on other games, DLC first on Xbox, plays the best on Xbox, whatever it may be, they will prioritize Xbox across their portfolio. But I think if they see the money there, if they see it makes sense to put a game on PlayStation or Nintendo, they're going to do it, because Xbox, that's just the Xbox philosophy in general. Like they are not afraid to do that. And so I think they will want to drive people to Game Pass first and foremost. But if they can also get 20 million people to buy a game on PlayStation consoles, why pass up that opportunity?
Sure. Sydney, what's your take on those comments?
I sit in a very similar camp as Dornbush in terms of Microsoft has continually said like they're not trying to take games off of Sony and Nintendo platforms. I think that I can see them continuing to put existing IP where it currently is, but maybe new IP stays exclusive to or starts as exclusive to Xbox, whether that's a timed exclusive or forever thing. I don't know. I also think that we'll see it kind of echo. I mean, obviously I come from a shooter background, so how like Call of Duty is kind of not exclusive, but they're aligned with PlayStation, and they used to be aligned with Xbox, and so they get DLC first. Sometimes, in the case of Destiny, like there were certain guns that were only on PlayStation for an entire year, and then it came to Xbox. So I think we'll see like exclusive in that way for existing IP that continues to be cross-platform, but I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know if Starfield will sit as existing IP or new IP, but I'd say everything at least beyond Starfield could be exclusive to Xbox. That's my hypothesis.
Destin, do you concur with your fellow panelists?
I mean, Xbox paid $1 billion. They can do what they want.
They paid more than that.
Billion.
It's $7 billion.
Yeah, like
I can't
people
even
are just going to have to get used to this idea. Like stuff's going to be exclusive on Xbox. Period. Like that's business. We don't have Spider-Man on Xbox. Like whatever. We get this question constantly, right? Is Starfield going to be on PlayStation? It might not. We don't know. We don't have any answers. Phil Spencer has actually said specifically, like, we paid $7 billion for the company. Yeah, we're going to have stuff exclusively on our platform. It's pretty clear. It'll probably be timed exclusive because they don't want to like lose money on launching it on other platforms eventually. But the fact that this is surprising to me. They're definitely going to want to recoup that investment, and they want to bolster the Xbox platform. So, yeah.
I have a question for anyone who might know more about game development than I do, which is if a game is planned to be cross-platform, theoretically, you're selling more copies, right? So do they create the budget and like the expected return on investment with that in mind? Because I'm wondering, like in the case of Starfield, I'm sure that when they started budgeting for that game, like so long ago, they didn't think that they were going to be bought by Microsoft. So my question is kind of like, do we think they made that budget and kind of created this game and thought about how much money they're going to get back, thinking it's going to be sold on every platform?
I do think, if a multi-platform game sells more copies than an exclusive game, third-party publishers take that into account, probably with the budget for that game. But the flip side of that is if a game is exclusive, then the platform holder can make up for that, right? Mm-hmm. They can pay them extra for that exclusivity. That sound about right to you, Jonathan?
Yeah. I mean, we are in a weird case here where games in the Bethesda portfolio, as Sydney was mentioning, like are games that were being first thought out when it was multiple platforms. But also I think we were talking about Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 in pretty theoretical terms, like when they announced both those games and they would talk about Elder Scrolls, they're like, Starfield is years away, and then Elder Scrolls is after that. Like Pete Hines on his Twitter has been like, there's no need to ask me about Elder Scrolls right now. Like I have nothing to tell you. And so who knows when these discussions with Microsoft started and how that has impacted their development. Because again, like this is sort of a thing that until the deal closes, technically they're not owned. Technically, they still have to operate as this third-party company. until the deal is finalized. But they can start planning ahead. So I assume Xbox is going to make those calls as this generation goes on, because we're probably a couple years away from those games.
The deal's not even finalized yet. Like
Yeah.
they announced that like a month ago. Feels like I'm not going to say anything definitively. The deal's not even done yet. There's a lot of legal stuff that needs to happen over the next quarter before they even finalize ownership of the company. So I think at that point we're going to know more about what's exclusive, what isn't, and how they handle exclusivity.
Turns out it takes a long time to spend $7.5 billion.
Right.
One more Microsoft update before we take off today. Microsoft does expect the Xbox Series X and S shortages to continue well into 2021. Of course, the consoles launched last week, but unless you got a pre-order in back in September, you probably don't have a new Xbox right now. Quote from the same CFO from Microsoft says, I think we'll continue to see supply shortages as we head into the post-holiday quarter. So Microsoft's Q3, calendar Q1. And then when we get to Microsoft's Q4, April to June 2021, all of our supply chain continuing to go full speed, heading into kind of the pre-summer months. So I don't know. I don't think people are going to be readily able to get an Xbox anytime soon. But Jonathan, I don't think Sony has commented on the sort of like supply chain of the PS5, have they?
No, other than I think the most recent comments were that they're hoping to sell more in the first quarter than the PS4 did, are their expectations. So they obviously have some idea in mind of how many consoles they can manufacture. But it's one of those things where obviously we're in a very strange time, and the COVID-19 pandemic, while there is hope on the horizon in terms of vaccines being produced, we're still a bit away from that. And also, it is just impossible to know how day to day that can affect manufacturing in certain states, countries, parts of the world. Like that can all be impacted very heavily on the, on a minute's notice, on a day's notice. So yeah, I think it makes sense to curb expectations that these things won't be just readily available, in the opening months of next year.
All right, well, I think that about does it for us today. I'm going to go see if I can fix Assassin's Creed Valhalla on PS5's audio for me. Sydney, you playing Call of Duty tonight?
I am, yeah. I definitely am.
Are you finished playing Destiny 2 for now, Destin, or are you playing more of that?
Nah, I didn't hit power cap yet, so I'm a little obsessed.
More Destiny 2. And Jonathan, what's on your gameplay tonight?
I am going to attempt to beat the Tower Knight in Demon Souls because I died 5 times yesterday at him. So we'll see if I can finally beat him tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, man, that's my worry about that game. I don't have a lot of patience for like dying and over and over again and trying the same boss over and over again. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll give it a fair shot. That is our show today, folks. We are here same time every day, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific here on YouTube with all the news, games, and more of the day. My name is Damon Hatfield. Thank you to Sydney, Destin, and Jonathan. Everybody have a good night.